What about you?
What? Hell? You been listening to me? No. For the same reasons. We're soldiers, you know. Soldiers don't go to hell. It's war. Soldiers, they kill other soldiers. We're in a situation where everybody involved knows the stakes. And if you're going to accept those stakes, you got to do certain things.
The ability of narrative films to elicit sympathies, allegiances, and other responses to fictional characters is a key element in their moral impact. The philosopher Karl Plantinga's quote highlights how the viewer morally engages with fictional characters through their sympathies, a feature that is of key importance in the impact of cinema as an art form. But while this formation of sympathies is straightforward enough with the typical heroic characters, what about when the character is a villain? There are countless examples of this in film. There are likeable criminals, charismatic murderers, and sympathetic sadists. But today I want to consider two groundbreaking televisual characters, Walter White from Breaking Bad and Tony Soprano from The Sopranos. Welcome to the Film Essay. In season 1 of Breaking Bad, we are introduced to Walter White, who can be considered a textbook anti-hero. Walter White is a tragic character in many ways, an unsuccessful high school chemistry teacher living a dull suburban life. We learn quickly in the Breaking Bad narrative that Walt has been extremely unlucky in his life, as despite his scientific talent and his work in forming the multi-billion-dollar company Grey Matter, he has never achieved financial or professional success. His suffering is reinforced when he is diagnosed with terminal lung cancer, leaving him with only months to live and nothing spare the medical debt of his cancer treatment to leave his 9-month pregnant wife, Skylar. As Eaton explains, the anti-hero lacks the traditional heroic qualities. Further, the anti-hero is plagued by human frailties such as weakness, cowardice, doubt, and envy. However, Walt's character has a darker, more villainous side. After he is diagnosed with cancer, he begins to produce, distribute, and sell methamphetamine under the justification that it is for his family. In the span of the first 5 episodes, this decision leads Walt to almost shoot a policeman who he believes is pursuing him, murder 2 dealers, and dissolve a body in acid. Nevertheless, these flaws do not morally condemn Walt completely at this stage of Breaking Bad because they are peripheral to the core of his personality, mild in the grand scheme of things, and are outweighed by some of Walt's virtues, such as his scientific passion, his affection for his family, and his motivation despite his tragic situation. Walter is therefore a characteristic anti-hero in the early seasons of Breaking Bad. The rough hero is like the anti-hero in that he is also a flawed protagonist, but unlike the anti-hero, the rough hero's flaws are often grievous. He is a sociopath, an outlaw, a murderer, a sex criminal, a sadist, or Satan incarnate. Consider the character of Tony Soprano. Like Bryan Cranston has said, without Tony Soprano there would be no Walter White. But the difference is that Tony Soprano is, from the outset, a grievously flawed character. He is a cold-blooded murderer, an unforgiving mob boss who makes his living out of fear and intimidation. This is not to say he doesn't have redeeming characteristics that humanise his character. Indeed, the ducks of the very first episode become a symbol for the gentler side of his nature, which values simple virtues like loyalty and love for your family. But his moral flaws are so great that he must be considered a rough hero, and as a result, failing to morally condemn him would mislead the audience's intellectual and emotional engagement with the work. The rough hero often adheres to a quasi-moral code that he follows. With Tony Soprano, this is clear.
St. Peter, my family's saint. Now as that card burns, so may your soul burn in hell if you betray your friends and the family. Repeat after me. May I burn in hell.
May I burn in hell.
If I betray my friends.
If I betray my friends.
Tony Soprano may therefore be considered a rough hero who has a contrasted character, both sympathetic, likeable, and at some points admirable, while simultaneously exhibiting grievously flawed and immoral behaviours. Crucially, in both characters there is an intrinsic aesthetic achievement. As Eaton says, a moral flaw can be an aesthetic merit in a work. The capacity to make an audience think and feel things inimical to their considered views and deeply held principles is, for this very reason, an aesthetic achievement. Both Breaking Bad and The Sopranos contain protagonists whose behaviour is flawed and more often than not immoral. However, the sympathetic and admirable elements of both characters can be viewed as aesthetic achievements of the works, using editing, soundtrack, and complex, carefully constructed narratives to ensure the audience maintains sympathy with these protagonists. Walter White is a textbook anti-hero, as contains peripheral flaws and weaknesses that are, at the outset, outweighed by his tragic and occasionally virtuous nature. Tony Soprano is a characteristic rough hero, possessing grievous flaws that are an integral and unavoidable part of his personality, who the audience morally condemns yet remains sympathetic with due to his particular humanising traits. However, in light of this, Walter White may well be an anti-hero at the start of Breaking Bad, but his character arc over the series is one of pure transition, as he changes from a mild anti-hero to a grievous rough hero, but that's a film essay for another day. Thank you for watching. To write this, I used A.W. Eaton's fantastic article Robust Immoralism. If you want to read more about anti-heroes and rough heroes in film theory, I've included a link in the description. I haven't been uploading recently because I've been putting the finishing touches to my dissertation for my Masters in Film Studies on this very subject. Now that I've finished the course, I'll be uploading more regularly. A huge thank you for helping me get to 15,000 subscribers, and stay tuned for a lot of big things in the future.